if we've actually officially met. Robert Kinney. No, we did in the hallway in one of the neighborhoods. Yes, we were both moving quickly. Yes, thank you. Good to see you again.
Please give a warm summer welcome to the Honorable Robert Paulson.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to sunny San Diego. What a wonderful town we're in. And what I'd like to do is, it's kind of a little breaking of the norm here, but we have this great flag, and I was at the Padres game yesterday, David Ziegner, watching the Giants and with my son, and it was really a patriotic day at the Petco Field. But I'm going to ask everybody to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we get started here today, I was thinking yesterday we had a very successful new commissioner orientation, and I was hearkening back as I'm getting a little gray hair here, and my wife reminds me you're losing it up here too, that we have a new set of commissioners that are coming through, and I remember my day in July of 2008 in Portland, Oregon, sitting in a room with a gentleman sitting across from me. When you go through your credentials, former Attorney General of Kentucky, Mayor of Louisville, and a mentor to many of us in this room. And I'd ask that you join me in a moment of silence to really pay tribute to that remarkable individual who we had the opportunity to serve with, a great citizen and civic leader of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, David Armstrong. Thank you. Well, good morning and welcome. I can tell you a couple of you missed the dress code attire. I know Mr. Farrell had listened very intently. It was casual, California casual. So to my executive committee members, this is not your first Holy Communion. Please lose the ties by 12 noon, or there will be, and Ellen, help these guys out. I mean, we can't take them anywhere.
I can only do so much, Rob.
But California casual, and all the utility folk here, I know you don't, good. I see that. Jim, good. Susan's very proud of you. Walter, you're a West Point guy. Come on. Loose by 12 noon. I want those ties loosened up a little bit. We're here to have fun and partake in a great conference here in San Diego. You know, when you look at this remarkable city, and I was doing some fact gathering, you can't help but marvel in the success of this part of California. Let me just share with you some really neat statistics. One is that this city has the #1 concentration of military defense assets in the world. In fact, the Pacific Fleet is domiciled here, and it is truly a remarkable success story. And by the way, if you haven't had the opportunity to do it, I strongly encourage you to go over and tour the Midway. It is a marvelous, it's an old diesel carrier. Think about that. Diesel carrier, now we have a nuclear navy. But the fact that aircraft carrier served in the first Gulf War, from the Battle of Midway to the first Gulf War, is amazing. It's a tribute to Admiral Rickover and the Navy, and Admiral Nimitz for that matter. This city is also ranked #2, and Chairman Sheehan will appreciate this as we tee up a conversation on innovation, the most innovative city in the world by Forbes. It's also in National Geographic's ranking, the Smart City list of 2015. It was recognized for its strong technology sector, local innovation, green practices, clean tech investment, and smart public planning, and it's unparalleled and speaks to the quality of life of this great region. Now, if I kept going on, you'd think I was on the payroll of the local Chamber of Commerce, but it is truly remarkable, and in my view, it really ties in very nicely to the themes that we're going to be taking up here today. Although the name of the conference has changed, and Michelle is very proud of that, and we appreciate your input with the name change, we are, I know many of you have traveled from long distances to be here, but but we have over 1,000 attendees here in San Diego. But you know, when you look at an event of this size and scope, nothing can get done without the true dedication and planning of the professional staff that represents this wonderful organization. And I'm going to ask the NARUC staff, our executive director and his team, to stand because we want to thank you for a job well done. Speaking of recognition, I'm honored here this morning. We have a NARUC staff member who is celebrating a 40-year career milestone with NARUC. And believe me, that's pretty incredible to have 40 years vested in this wonderful organization. But Judith Ford, Judy, as we well know her, is celebrating this career milestone. And Judy, let me just say to you how much of an honor it is to recognize you. And I'm supposed to provide you with a beautiful bouquet of flowers. And Greg is going to play Vanna White here. But 40 years. I'm not going to let you go without saying a few remarks. You might be able to give some public utility commissioners some advice and counsel, because we're not going to get to 40 years. We're usually 3.5.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to everyone. And I just want you to know that 40 years ago, when I started here, I was only a toddler. So it hasn't been that long. But when I started out, we only had a staff of, for years, of like 14 people. And we worked hard, got things done, and then things started to change. We hired more people. And I think after 25, I stopped counting of how many staff we had. But anyway, it has been good. It's had challenges, it's had rewards. And I was always taught that if you work hard, you'll be rewarded, and today is my day.
As always, it's great to have the leadership team here from the executive committee. I want to recognize our first vice president from the great state of Connecticut, Jack Patowski, with us. Our esteemed treasurer, David Ziegner from the Hoosier State. Our second vice president from the great state of Wisconsin, Ellen Nowak. Ellen, thank you for being here, and great job with the new commissioner orientation. And Ron Griez from the great state of Florida is with us. Ron, welcome. And I'd also like to have our NARUC board members that are in the room today. I will be taking notes if you're not here, so please stand to be recognized. NARUC board. By the way, just a couple quick housekeeping notes before I recognize our sponsors here. If you have an iPhone, please look at NARUC Summer 17. That's the app. We're very proud of that. It cannot be hacked. It's got good cyber protocols. Lastly, or two items. One is I'm going to be working on the elevators at the post-break here. If you do get stuck, I'll give you my cell phone number. I'll try to help you. I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express the other night, so I know a little bit about elevators. And Michelle, I'm a little concerned. The yacht, Paul Allen's yacht out there, is blocking my wonderful view. Could you please have it moved? On a serious note, let me take this opportunity. You can't put a conference like this together without the support of our corporate sponsors and industry partners. And I'm going to ask everybody to hold their applause, but starting with our blue sponsor, the Regulatory Assistance Project, CTC Global. We thank you for your support. Our bronze sponsor, the American Petroleum Institute. Our silver sponsor, the Nuclear Energy Institute. Our gold sponsors, the Solar Energy Industries Association, the SEFA Group, Oracle Utilities, Ernst & Young, AWIA, and Excella as gold sponsors here. Our platinum sponsor, Dan and his team have just been a wonderful supporter, not only of NARUC, but our regional meetings. And I want to thank our good friends at ITRON for their continued support of this wonderful organization. Please join me in thanking our sponsors here today. We also have with us, representing one of our federal agencies, and they've been a great partner to NARUC, one of our special exhibitors, and I encourage you to tour their booth. This is the U.S. Department of Energy, the Office of Fossil Fuels, and again, I encourage you to go out and network with our Expo sponsors. We also are blessed to have media sponsors with us here today. RTO Insider, Fortnightly, and E9. We thank them for their support and coverage of this event. And again, we're looking forward to a very constructive 3 days here in San Diego. There's a lot going on since our last meeting. As you know, this organization has been on Capitol Hill presenting testimony on a number of high-level issues. And our panel here shortly, we're going to talk a little bit about infrastructure and innovation. But I'm proud to say, and this is a very bullish statement, but I think it needs to be made here today, and this is a testimony to our leadership team, the staff at NARUC. I don't think the NARUC brand has been any stronger, and it really demonstrates when we go on Capitol Hill or we have our regional meetings, the real input that policymakers are looking for from NARUC commissioners and the NARUC organization. So that's a real testimony. As I say in Washington and state capitals, there are workhorses and show horses, and this organization is truly one of those workhorses. And Greg, I know I'm doing your annual review here. I don't want you to get too over your skis, but we owe you a debt of gratitude, and we hired you, and you've really hit the ground running, and it's truly a testimony to your leadership. Well, I'm excited to recognize now to begin our panel. As you know, I had 3 themes, and by the way, this is not the time to have that moment where you forget those 3 themes. Making sure everybody's paying attention here this morning. But innovation, infrastructure, and workforce investment are so critically important to everything and every decision we make as state public utility commissioners. And I'm very proud of one of the efforts that has been led by my good colleague from the Commonwealth of Virginia, Judy Jagdmann. And by the way, Judy, I want to take this opportunity on behalf of the entire NARUC membership to congratulate you as the new president of MAC Group. Judy, congratulations. And this whole issue, and here we are in one of the foremost military towns. Now, Tom's going to take exception to that with Norfolk on the East Coast, but the two military installations are just world class. And you look at what we do as commissioners and the impact that we can have around workforce development issues. And I did a lot of research working with Judy and staff at NARUC about the role that NARUC can play in really harnessing a conversation and really coming up with tangible deliverables around providing these returning military service personnel opportunities, not only within a utility environment, but on the procurement side. Many people are, 8 out of every 10 jobs in this country since 1986 have been created by employers with 25 or less employees. And so here we are today with the chairman and CEO of Dominion Power, a gentleman who probably needs no introduction to this group, but has really volunteered his time at a national level with Troops to Energy. And Tom, I think as we hear you speak here this morning, I'm going to turn it over to Judy to introduce you. We thank you for your leadership on this particular topic, because it's a topic that cuts across party lines, cuts across multiple jurisdictions, and the EEI membership, along with groups like the American Gas Association, the National Association of Water Companies, this cohesive utility commitment to hiring our military personnel that have served this wonderful country is really a testimony to what makes this country great and why we do this Pledge of Allegiance. So with that, I want to recognize our colleague who's leading this effort. She's done a remarkable job. I know she had a phenomenal meeting here yesterday, and please join me in extending a warm NARUC welcome to my colleague, my MAC Group President, Judith Jagdmann.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming out so early this morning to hear about a topic close to my heart, military workforce development. As the daughter of a veteran, I love to hear about the successes of our military personnel entering the civilian workforce. And we know the value veterans bring to our utility work in both the private and the governmental sector. In fact, veterans are a prime source of pre-screened applications for our job. Did you know that only 29% of the 17 to 24-year-old population is even eligible for military service? Veterans are also the largest source of individuals with security clearances and have undergone thorough screenings to get these clearances. Further, while in the service, members of the military develop specialties that often correlate directly with our utility-related jobs. Many have set up generators, run electric lines, and installed water facilities in difficult terrain. Many also have specialties in areas like accounting, human resources, and supply chain management. And no matter what their individual specialty, members of our armed forces develop skills in leadership, strategic thinking, and teamwork. And when properly recognized, these skills are desirable to most employers. Increasingly, businesses and other organizations like NARUC are developing programs and resources to help employers connect with veterans. Recently, the NARUC Task Force on Military Workforce was given the job of highlighting for utility companies and for state regulatory bodies the best practices for hiring and retaining veterans for positions that use upon their military experience. Now, our task force meets regularly and has heard from many entities actively engaged in this area. Yesterday, we heard from Virginia Center for Military and Veterans Education. We heard from Ann Hoskins and Michael O'Connell with Sunrun. We heard from Spencer Wilcox of Academy Securities. And we heard from Chief Warrant Officer Retired Gerald Hampton of the U.S. Marine Corps. Now, my colleague Mark Christie tells me no one is ever retired from the Marine Corps. He says, once a Marine, always a Marine. So, if you have not had an opportunity to come to one of our meetings, I invite you to do so. I think you will find it impactful and very much worth your time. Now, the Virginia State Corporation Commission, where I work, is one state agency that is proud to have numerous veterans and reservists among our valued employees. And Virginia, like several other states, has the good fortune to be the home of several utility companies that prize the hiring of veterans. As Rob told us earlier, with us today is Tom Farrell, Chairman, President, and Chief Executive Officer of Dominion Energy, one of America's leading energy companies. Now, I'm not going to read his extensive resume. It is available on the NARUC website, and I commend you to it. But I will note, as Rob mentioned, that Tom is the former chairman and is on the board of the Edison Electric Institute and was instrumental in developing EEI's Troops to Energy program. Now, during Mr. Farrell's tenure, Dominion Energy was awarded the Secretary of Defense Employer Support Freedom Award. This is the highest recognition given to companies for their support of employees who serve in the National Guard and Reserve. Dominion Energy has received the United Way's National Summit Award for exceptional volunteerism and community impact. Now, this morning, Tom will share with us some insights on veteran hiring and training practices at Dominion Energy. And before I call him to the stage, I was told that we would not have any time for questions, so I'm going to ask one before he comes. Tom, when you come up here, I'd like to know if Dominion would be willing to serve as a sounding board or resource for other utilities looking to establish veteran hiring programs. And I'll be asking some of the others of you the same question later. Please join me in welcoming Tom Farrell to speak about
Good morning, everyone. I believe in short answers, so it's particularly when chairman of our state commission asked me a question. The answer is yes. With enthusiasm. I would like to start out, I appreciate Rob's comments, but in today's world, I think it's important that all of us make sure that the truth is known, and that when fake news is enunciated, it needs to be called out. San Diego is not the center of the military universe. It is Norfolk, Virginia, which is the home of the Atlantic Fleet, which is the world's largest naval base in the world. Judy, thank you very much for those comments. I've known Judy for a long time now. She was Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia in just a couple of years ago, and has now served, I think she's in her 12th year serving on our State Corporation Commission. Very highly regarded in our state, among our political leaders, and obviously nationwide among her colleagues in the utility industry. I want to talk a minute about, in just a few minutes, about what we call Troops to Energy, which was an initiative that, as Rob and Judy mentioned, when I was chair of EEI, they say, okay, you get one thing that will help you promote. What would you like to do? So we started the Troops to Energy Jobs program when I was chairman of EEI, and I'll give you a little description about it in a minute. But I thought I'd start with the why question. Why is hiring veterans a priority at our company and throughout the utility industry? And when I say utility industry, I'm including more than electric utilities. We started it at EEI, but it's been adopted across many of the utilities and industries that you all regulate. The short answer is that hiring veterans is good for our customers, it's good for our investors, and it's good for the communities we serve. Our business demands a strong commitment to safety, excellence, and integrity, just doing the right thing. We share those values with the members of the United States Armed Forces. It's no surprise that men and women who have been successful in their military careers almost always succeed at Dominion Energy. Winston Churchill, who fought in many wars himself, including when he was a member of Parliament, he left Parliament to go to the trenches in World War I, once stated the debt of gratitude that society owes its veterans. You all have heard this. It's a famous phrase he used when speaking to the RAF pilots who fought and won the Battle of Britain in 1940. He said, never was so much owed by so many to so few. Fast forward more than 75 years, and Churchill's statement still rings true. Today's war on terror has been fought by a very small percentage of our population. We have a very professional military force, and only a fraction of the nation's citizens serve in the military. Those who do typically serve multiple tours in conflict zones. A half a dozen or more is not uncommon these days, something that was very rare, if not unthinkable, as recently as the Vietnam years. Can you imagine what would have happened if we were sending folks to Vietnam 5 and 6 times? We began Troops to Energy Jobs in 2011 as a pilot program. The first step was to figure out exactly where our company was and the utility industry was. That year, Dominion Energy hired about 1 in 7 of our new hires was a veteran, about 14%. Now that figure is well above the percentage of veterans employed in the overall civilian workforce. Most of you all probably know the unemployment rate among vets is twice the unemployment rate of the rest of our country, which is outrageous. But we hired 14% that year, 9% was typical, and we thought we could and should do better than that. So we set a goal of having 20% of our new hires every year at Dominion Energy be a veteran. So we've met that target for the last 5 years. Last year we had 21% of our new hires were veterans, and over the last 5 years that means we've hired 1,000 veterans, a little more than 1,000 veterans at our company. And to put that figure in military terms, that's the rough equivalent of hiring an infantry battalion. Now, it's no coincidence that since the hiring of veterans became a priority, our safety and operational performance has improved. Economists call this a virtuous cycle. As we hire more members of the armed forces, our workforce takes on more of the behaviors, culture, and accountability that typifies the military. That means more emphasis on individual responsibility, teamwork, execution, and simply doing things the right way. Oscar Wilde once said that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. I've been very pleased to see that other industries and professions have adopted a similar approach. Troops to classrooms and troops to healthcare, for example. And as supportive as we are, and this is another way of answering Judy's question, as supportive as we are of what other industries are doing in this area, those of us in the energy business remain focused on bringing the best of the military into our workforces. Our customers deserve no less than the best, and that's what we are striving to do. And in policy, I was looking at your agenda over the next few days, and in policy meetings like this, your discussions tend to gravitate to weighty subjects like technology, reliability, security, capital investment, just to name a few. But we must not forget that our industry is physically, intellectually, and behaviorally challenging for our workforce. The best measure of a strong company remains, in my opinion, the quality of its workforce, not just the strength of its balance sheet or its technological prowess. Of course, they're important, but success in our business begins and ends with our workforce. We ask them to perform at a very high level, including after natural disasters, times when everyone else is told to stay at home and off the roads. We expect our employees to operate and maintain multi-billion-dollar assets that are critical to the day-to-day functioning of our society. We routinely send employees out to deal with complex technical and interpersonal situations. We expect the best of them, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, year after year after year. Not unlike what is expected of those who serve in the military. The importance of what we do in our industry day in and day out reminds us just how critical it is for us to get the baby boom workforce transition done right. As I look around the room, I'm confident that many, maybe not most, but many are baby boomers, as I am, and it may come as a shock to some that our generation is not going to dominate the workforce forever, or even for very much longer. For almost all of my career, I have heard about the impending retirement of the baby boom generation, or the coming retirement of the boomers, or the future retirement. Well, we now find ourselves squarely in the midst of that retirement juggernaut. I'm from Virginia, the Washington Red. You have to be a Washington Redskins fan or you're not allowed to live in the state. They used to have a motto, "The future is now." The oldest boomers are 71 this year. After the financial crisis of 2008 and the ensuing Great Recession, many delayed their retirement plans. Now, 9 years later, the boomers are bailing out of the workforce in droves every day. For some industries, like the technology sector, the transition from one generation to the next has been fairly straightforward, if not unremarkable. The Googles and Facebooks of the world naturally attract a younger workforce. At the same time, they have fewer expectations that workers in their 20s will stay around at one company and retire decades later. For our industry, though, this generational turnover has been more challenging. Millennial generation employees, for example, question many of the long-standing norms of the utility industry. It's natural, it has been quite healthy. We've been encouraged to flatten our organizations, update our benefits, and incorporate new and better ways of engaging with our customers and our employees. Those are worthwhile endeavors that have led to leaner and more responsive organizations, focusing on adding value for customers and our other stakeholders. But at the same time, we have to hold fast to certain non-negotiable, tried and true standards of conduct and performance. For example, employees need to show up when they're scheduled to work, and they have to keep safety first thing in their minds every day. Their safety and the safety of our customers, which, among other things, mean they have to be fit for duty every day, with no exception. And at a time when accountability and performance excellence are endangered by our great inflation culture, our industry continues to demand the best of our people. Experience has taught us that hiring a strong contingent of veterans every year has been a valuable tool for navigating the changing of the generational guard. It's about shared values. The values that the United States military instills in its members align closely with Dominion Energy's core values: safety, excellence, ethics, and teamwork. We are finding that our veterans are exemplary custodians of these values. They tend to be highly adaptive and flexible, qualities that are indispensable in today's transformational time in our industry. The move towards cleaner energy is relentless, whether it's caused by governmental action or by market forces, in, I believe, both. It is inevitable and irreversible. The United States has emerged again as a global energy superpower. In order to take full advantage of this new role, we have got to shift our public policy outlook away from the 1970s mindset of energy scarcity to the reality of domestic energy abundance. We have to make prudent investments to modernize our energy infrastructure, including in the grid itself. After a century of operating a system with one-way flows from central power plants, we now need to upgrade the grid to integrate rapid growth of distributed energy, especially in our region, solar power. Southern California is on the leading edge of this transition. Incorporating distributed resources is a significant challenge for utilities, but it can be overcome. At the same time, it's an opportunity to add more security to the grid, to empower our customers with better information about their energy usage, and to improve overall reliability. It's fitting that a technology-savvy new generation in our workforce will be called on to change the very nature of the grid to accommodate two-way flows of electricity while maintaining our reliability. It's a critical investment for us to make as a society. It's also part of our work as being an energy superpower, to harness and integrate renewable resources at the same time we continue making needed investments in around-the-clock dispatchable energy supplies. In just a few months, our company will bring online an LNG export facility at our Cove Point terminal in the Chesapeake Bay in Maryland. Sharing the abundant natural gas we have in the United States with our global partners is important to our economy and to our national security. We also need to continue working to bring the abundance of shale gas from the Midwest to where it is needed by end users in the eastern United States. Many of you probably recall how the former Soviet Union always had an abundant supply of wheat, but they never had bread in their stores. It's because they had transportation failures. In a similar vein, natural gas infrastructure is critical for both gas and electricity customers if we are to reap the economic and environmental benefits of our nation's surplus of natural gas supplies. In closing, I must say that I've never been more optimistic about the state of the energy business. We have America's finest staffing our workforces. We have new, cleaner technologies with which to serve our customers. We have abundant, affordable reserves of domestic energy to power our economy and support our allies abroad. Very, very seldom does the society get a second chance at something. We have a second chance to be an energy superpower. The American century post-World War II was largely fueled by domestic energy. For better or for worse, many of our national security challenges since then have been resulted from the need to protect the foreign energy resources on which we had become dangerously reliant. Now, once again, global energy leadership is within our grasp if we seize it in the next American century. This time around, natural gas is the default fuel, bolstered by renewable energy sources. Now, just a week ago, Dominion Energy made a significant announcement regarding some offshore wind project along the east coast of Virginia, obviously the east coast, along the coast of Virginia. And we've been making strategic investments in solar energy all around the country, including here in California. A large percentage of these projects are ring-fenced, with arrangements with large customers ranging from Amazon to the United States Navy, which has got the largest naval base in the world in Norfolk, Virginia, and a couple of universities like the University of Virginia has also participated. These and other developments at our company and throughout our entire industry serve to reinforce the notion that change is the law of life, challenging all of us to partner in creating an energy future that is cleaner and smarter, but still affordable and reliable for all Americans. And integrating the next generation into that workforce is a great challenge for all of us. Being able to rely on veterans is a blessing while they are wearing our nation's uniform and when they are wearing our uniforms. So hire a vet. You won't regret it. Thank you.
Well, obviously, I have to report I did put some fake news out there. It is Norfolk, but I apologize, Tom. I won't let that happen again. Judy, thank you also for your leadership on this important initiative. I really think the energy that I see around the conversation, and my colleague David Sweet in Pennsylvania more recently hosted a conversation with all of our utilities. So this is something for commissioners in the room that if you're not part of Judy's task force, I would encourage you to participate, because I know we're looking for a few new recruits here if we can. Now it's my pleasure to, by the way, one last housekeeping item. Greg, I get in trouble here, but I'm going to remind everybody in the back to please come forward. We have seats here. This is not the midterm exam, but we've got a number of seats here, and we'd encourage you to come forward. Judge Christie, you can lead the group in the back there. You know, get them to come forward here for this next panel. Well, with that in mind, I'm really excited to host and moderate the discussion we're going to tie into a conversation here over the next few days on innovation. And the topic du jour for us is innovative technologies across the utility sectors. And it's really great to have with us, if I could start with our panelists, Lynn Jurek, CEO and co-founder of Sunrun, Maria Korsnick, President and CEO of the Nuclear Energy Institute, and my good friend, really a key thought leader in the water industry, Susan Story, the President and CEO of American Water, and Geisha Williams, the new CEO of Pacific Gas and Electric Corporation. Ladies, could you please come forward, and we're going to kickstart our conversation here today.
Give everybody an opportunity to get mic'd up here, and here we go. Well, it's great to have you all here in sunny San Diego to have a great conversation around innovation. And obviously, I'm very proud. I gave Susan a nice shout out because, as many people know, I was honored to be chairman of the Neighborhood Water Committee, and that's, as we tell the new commissioners, that's where all the activity takes place within the organization. But we look at, and Tom Farrell, I think, alluded to it, you know, there was a tectonic shift taking place within the utility sector, and it's coming in the form of generation supply mix changes, digitization, and I read a statistic from my good friends at EPRI. Right now in the U.S., there's 52 million customers out there with smart meters, and customers interfacing differently now with the utility, both on the water, gas, and electric side. And Lynn, in your world of looking at the cost curves in how we're seeing customers embrace, whether it's the University of Virginia or the University of Pennsylvania or my residential customers in Pennsylvania with rooftop solar installations. We've seen close to a 50% reduction in solar panels cost since 2008. So it's an exciting time, but it's a challenging time. And so why don't we get started and Geisha, I'm going to let you start first. You're the newbie CEO, but you've been in this industry a while. And sorry, the energy coming off. The conversation taking place in your C-suite around innovation and how that relates to your customers and how you see it out over the next 5 to 10 years.
So thanks, Rob. If I could, I'm just going to stand because I fidget otherwise in my seat. So, you know, there's never been, and Tom alluded to it earlier, a more exciting, a more positive time to be in the energy industry. The amount of renewables coming online, whether they be large scale or whether they be in terms of at the home or at the businesses, is unbelievable. The amount of innovation that's occurring, both in terms of storage, in terms of clean energy, transportation sectors, whether it's an additional work looking at DERs and how to integrate all those together. Innovation is with us, and it's going to be absolutely required for us to continue to be successful. So as a utility, PG&E is really all about how to integrate all of these different innovations, how to integrate all of these different technologies to the benefit of our customers, right? So we've got to be able to provide safe, Safe. Safe.
Reliable.
Safe. Safe. Reliable.
Affordable.
Safe. Safe, reliable, affordable, and clean energy. Hoorah! And you gotta be flexible too. But anyway, as a company, in doing that, making investments in our grid is going to be really important. And it's really all about how do you make sure that your grid stays at pace, if you will, with all the technology. And how do we make sure that the innovation is able to occur? Now, at PG&E, we're not strangers to innovation. As a matter of fact, the company has a long and rich history of many, many firsts. It's one of the things that actually attracted me to the company almost 10 years ago. We were the first to commercialize, the first geothermal power plant in the geysers back in 1960. We have the first nuclear license from the Atomic Energy Commission, now the NRC, when we went public with, or we actually operated Valecitos, which is the first commercial public power plant, nuclear power plant in the country. And more recently, we've been the first to really, on a large scale, put smart meters in place. Smart meters that now, we have 10 million of them, give us insights and perspectives in terms of energy use and how to really harness the energy, better get information for our customers. Now, when I think about PG&E's past and I think about our future and the role we've played in innovation, I think a lot has to do simply with geography and where we are. We're in California, which is ground zero for innovation and for early adopters of technology. We have customers that are interested in everything green and everything new. We have policymakers that are all in about really developing and putting forth an example for the rest of the country, maybe even the world, for how clean energy comes together. And we are all in as well. So the investments we're making, the pilots that we're running are all really about how do we continue to move forward. And we've made incredible progress in just the last 10 years. So today, 33% of the power that we deliver to our customers is renewable. 70% of it is greenhouse gas free. And it's really all about the ands, right? It's about clean, safe, reliable, and affordable. And while we've done that, our company has achieved the best ever reliability performance in our company's history. So it's really about figuring out how to make it all work together. It's about bringing the various stakeholders and coming together to figure out what the best solutions are. We're at the forefront. We're really excited about the future, and I think innovation is going to play a significant role, and I look forward to your questions. So thank you.
Lynn, you and I have had some conversations dating back to probably when I first came on the commission and Sunrun was coming into Pennsylvania. And obviously the statistic I threw out there, I mean, these cost curves coming down for rooftop solar panels, active customer engagement with their energy usage, and to Geisha's last point, I mean, customers want to embrace as part of, whether it's corporate or residential, I call it sustainability goals, and how your company is seeing those trends and how you're interfacing with your customers and your regulators. And as a founder of a company, you and Elon Musk probably have a lot in common in terms of the ups and downs of running a company, a startup, to a fully scalable solar company across. I have a loud voice and everybody pays attention. So talk to us a little bit about
Why don't I go to the mic?
Go to the mic.
I would love to. Thank you. And thank you, Geisha. As many of you know, we're based in San Francisco, so in PG&E's territory, and very much appreciate the innovation and welcome there. In fact, PG&E was an early investor in many of our projects, so another first back in 2009. So they're very, very important partner to us. I was reading this MIT study called The Future of the Utility. I don't know if you guys have read this. It's a 360-page book, so it's like your light beach reading, for the summer, hopefully. But the visual the author put out there was, we built our energy infrastructure as a 40-lane highway. And we had to build it as a 40-lane highway because we have to meet peak demand and we have to be reliable 24/7. And what's so transformative right now is that we have the technologies where we can influence that, where we can actually keep cars off the road at peak times if we're able to figure out how to engage with the consumer. We also have the technologies to expand and contract that highway. And I want to talk a little bit about that, because if you can do that, if you can have a responsive system, if you can contract and expand it, that is clearly going to be a more cost-effective, less environmentally damaging, more resilient, more flexible system. And that's really the vision. And that was the vision when we started the company 10 years ago, and the foundational element was rooftop solar. And what we realized was we have to make it affordable for people, because if you want to do this and make an impact, it has to scale. So how do you do that? And we invented the residential solar as a service business model, which is also known as solar leasing. And today, our customers don't have to pay anything up front, and on average, they're saving 20% on their electric bill. And we offer this in 22 states now. So we've already today saved our customers $150 million on their electricity bills, and people want it. Part of the reason we were able to do that is because of the massive cost reductions that President Paulson was commenting on. From the beginning when we started our company to today, our cost structure is 70% lower. In just last quarter versus the previous year, we got another 17% out of our cost structure. And that is happening because it's happening at a global scale. So, while today in the US we'll only install a couple 100,000 rooftop solar systems, China's forecast is 3 million. Germany, Australia, this is a global transformation moving to this distributed network. Where it starts to get really interesting is the storage. And so when you combine the rooftop solar with storage, that's where you can now expand and contract the highway. And we are doing this today in Hawaii and California. We have over 1,000 customers that have signed up for rooftop PV plus a battery at home. And in Hawaii, what we're doing right now is we are storing all that power. We're not exporting anything to the grid, we're storing it, and then the home is consuming it at night. It's cheaper than the utility, customers like it, but it's so inefficient. What if we could actually connect with the utility and dispatch that power when and where we needed it? Consumers are paying for the technology, we have it, we just need to work together. And that's what we're trying to do, is figure out exactly how valuable these DERs are to the grid, what are the right business models and right incentives to get them up there. And we need the utilities in partnership to do that, because what we're good at, what we know how to do is we know the technology. We know what the consumer wants. We know how to package it to the consumer. We know how to deliver a fantastic experience to the consumer. We know how to explain it to them. We know how to guide them on what choices they should make. And what the utilities bring to us is the grid, the system, how to operate it. And so we've partnered up with both National Grid and NG to work these business models, to figure out what the business model is on the future. And that's what I'm very excited about, because I'm confident we can build this dynamic 5-lane highway, and that's the future of this country. And I'll just close maybe with one of the potential hiccups that we're seeing here is that too often we're getting stuck fighting over rate structures that appear to be designed to slow the growth of the rooftop solar, and that's just not good for society. It's not what the people want, and so let's work together to actually maximize the value of these assets to the entire system. Thank you.
Thank you. Maria, first let me take this opportunity to officially congratulate you. I know you're probably a good year into your new job. 6 months. Okay, I'm doing Greg's review now. I'll take yours next. But you really hit the ground running with a very ambitious agenda. I followed you. You were a participant in Secretary Perry's Energy Week, and a lot of exciting times in the nuclear industry, but a lot of challenging times. And we talk about innovation, the potential of investment around small modular reactors here in the U.S. We talked in 2008, Senator Lamar Alexander, we were going to have the nuclear renaissance. And so there's been these shifts and changes, and in your world of leading the Nuclear Energy Institute and innovation being part of your theme and leadership discussion, I'd love to grab your thoughts here this morning on where NEI sees leadership going in the nuclear industry.
morning. Happy to have a conversation about where the nuclear trends are headed here in the future. Before I look ahead, though, 10 or 20 years, I'd like to talk about the grid of today and how it's changing. You already heard in the previous speakers, the electricity generation, distribution, and delivery system are really undergoing a period of very dramatic change. But no matter how much it changes, consumers will always demand clean, reliable energy. And it's to that end that nuclear fits in. Today, our existing reactors are in fact the backbone of a cleaner grid. We provide over 60% of the emission-free electricity, so that's over half of the emission-free electricity that this country produces, and nuclear is very reliable, with a capacity factor of over 92%, with our plants running round the clock, 24/7. So as renewables continue to make a larger portion of the grid, baseload power, that power that's always there day and night, will become even more important than ever to help stabilize the grid. And to be part of that new grid, the nuclear energy industry must continue to innovate. Every day, people in our industry are working hard to advance our technology, and some of these new technologies could really change the very role that nuclear plays. First, we can talk about the closest deployment, and as he mentioned, they're small modular reactors. Already, NuScale has submitted its reactor design to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission for approval, and plans are to begin deployment of that reactor in the 2020s. Small modular reactors could be game changers in many respects. First, they'll be able to replace smaller increments of power, say 50 megawatts, giving utilities a little more discretion to add the amount of power that they need to meet the demands. But they could also be used in unique situations, for example, in remote locations like the Alaska wilderness or southwestern deserts, where there's little or no access to the main power grid or even pipelines. Some of these smaller reactors also have a unique feature, the ability to ramp power up and down, much like a combined cycle natural gas plant, but without emitting carbon. So this could make them a crucial part of a low-carbon grid. These small reactors are also reflecting a changing culture. The next round of U.S. construction with SMRs and advanced reactors will really have much more of an entrepreneurial spirit. It looks a little more like Silicon Valley with a greater focus on startups and private capital. Private investors include people who made their fortunes in companies like Microsoft, including Bill Gates with his company TerraPower and Paul Allen with TriAlpha. So that same entrepreneurial spirit of the internet companies is really now becoming the DNA of a new generation of nuclear energy companies. The industry is also pressing ahead with the development of advanced non-light water reactors, and those are looking for deployment in the 2030s and 2040s. These reactors will be far more versatile and adaptable. The three primary advanced reactor technologies that you'll hear about, molten salt, liquid metal, and high temperature gas, they all differ pretty significantly from each other and from the light water reactor technologies of today. And they'll see the nuclear industry partner with other industries in unique ways, potentially providing process heat for, say, chemical industries or for the production of hydrogen or other synthetic fuels, as well as producing electricity. But getting to that future won't be straightforward. The nuclear industry is facing several challenges today. In the communities that our plants call home, nuclear energy is an economic lifeline to these small towns to keep them vibrant and vital. But our friends in those communities are growing concerned as 13 nuclear reactors have shut down or have announced premature closure in the last few years, and more are at risk. Many of these premature closures are due to markets not properly valuing the emission-free, reliable electricity that nuclear power plants provide. We've raised this issue at the local, state, and federal levels, and we're beginning to see some action. Already 2 states, New York and Illinois, have taken measures to support their environmental goals, and other states are discussing market-based actions to protect their nuclear reactors. And this is really vital work, because if we don't work to preserve the existing fleet, there will be no bridge for a future filled with small reactors and advanced reactor designs. Instead, the innovations will occur elsewhere, with nations like Russia and China taking the lead in shaping the future in a manner that has grave consequences for our national security. Another part of keeping the nuclear industry vital and innovative is ensuring that regulatory reviews of a new technology are thorough and timely. The Nuclear Energy Industries Regulator, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, has technical expertise that is world-renowned, but the regulatory process is slow-moving, outdated in some respects, and more costly than necessary. Companies like NuScale, who are seeking NRC approval for their reactor design, need those timely reviews in order for them to stay commercially viable. So to its credit, the NRC is moving in that direction, but we need to see more progress. And all of these things are essential if we're to revitalize the American industry. I was very pleased to hear recently the President's remarks at Energy Week, where he called for a complete review of the United States nuclear energy policy. It's heartening to see that this message has made its way all the way to the White House. So in closing, I would share that to prepare for a future in which America continues to be the global leader in nuclear energy, we must do three things. First, we must continue to invest in these new technologies, licensing those small modular reactors and the wholly new reactor design, so that by the 2030s we're ready to compete with reactors being offered by competitors like Russia, China, and South Korea. And second, we need to ensure that the existing power plants are properly valued for the contribution to a clean, resilient grid. Without running and constructing nuclear plants at home, we will not be seen as leaders abroad. And third, we must reduce regulatory burden and cost to ensure existing and future reactors are fairly compensated for the electricity that they produce. This is the path that will retain the U.S. leadership in nuclear energy and provide the groundwork for the reliable, resilient, clean grid of the future. Thank you.
Susan, a lot of excitement in Voorhees, New Jersey these days, and Rick Burroughs asked me to point that out, Dr. Ed. But seriously, you have really hit the ground running with discussions at the White House around infrastructure between you and other NAWC leaders, talking about not only the need to replace aging water infrastructure. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I will wear my water hat here today. It is the only public utility that we all ingest. And Susan will talk about that at a penny a gallon, right? I'm on my points.
Yes.
By the way, Susan,
thank you.
No bottled water today.
No bottled water. Run
Okay.
away from bottled water. There's great water. They're in pitchers outside.
And you've seen, as I like to say, it's not your old water company anymore. It is really, the water industry has changed. And by the way, to our conversation about the power sector, we can't run our power plants without water. There's the water energy nexus conversation that continues to take place. As I like to say, west of Mississippi, there are issues around water scarcity. And so here we are today, and you've seen this working with your leadership team, not only your commitment to investing in sustainable water goals, but you've also done a lot with demand-side investment for the company's energy procurement. And you're spending a lot of time around R&D, which I'd like you to talk about here this morning because it's pretty exciting stuff.
Okay, thank you, President Powelson. It's working. Yay. What I'd like to start with, while Tom Farrell's still here, I was involved with the launch from Troops to Energy that Tom began, and he is way too modest to talk about his role. The fact is, while Dominion Energy hired over 1,000 veterans over the past few years, because of Tom Farrell, there are tens of thousands of veterans who are supporting their families with great jobs at utilities all across the country. So let's give him another round. So we were asked to spend 5 minutes on our opening comments, and rather than talk about all of the things we're doing at American Water, what I want to do is tee up the issues so that in your questions, President Powelson, or in yours from the audience, we focus on those things that you think are most important. So there are 4 things I want to talk about. The first thing is water supply, and we're here in California where there have been water supply issues ongoing for the past several years. The fact is, unlike electricity or gas, the only way you're going to get water is you get it from the ground in wells or aquifers, you get it from surfaces, rivers and lakes, you desalinate salt water, or you recycle, reuse. You do all the conservation you can, but that's it. That's all the water there is. And 70% of the water, 70% of the earth is water, but only 2.5% is fresh water, and then so much of that is in glaciers and those type of things that about 0.007% of water is available without desalination or recycling to basically serve the needs of 7.4 billion people across the planet. So supply is a real issue. Second thing is water infrastructure. The fact of the matter is there are over 1 million miles of water mains across this country and over 700,000 miles of wastewater pipes. And yet, 44% of that infrastructure will be very poor or end of life by 2020. 44% will be very poor or end of life by 2020. And as we replace infrastructure, we've got to make sure that the customers are able to pay their bills. How do you replace all of that infrastructure that the American Water Works Association and the American Society of Civil Engineers says will require over $1 trillion over the next 20 years? How are we going to do that? And how are we going to replace that infrastructure with smarter infrastructure that allows us to do things like predict leaks before they ever fail, so you don't have the economic hardship when you have roads shut down, or as we've seen in New York, subways flooded. So how do we address the infrastructure issue that's pressing out there for all of us? The third thing, and I think one of the most critical that we're facing, is the water quality issue. Kind of a little primer, there may be several of you who are chemists or chemical engineers. The fact of the matter is there are 130 million chemicals that are registered today. 130 million. Here's what's scary. Every 2.6 seconds, chemicals are breaking down, forming new substances that are going into our waterways, and we don't even know what they are. Every 2.6 seconds. And there are 1,400 microbes that affect our drinking water. Parasites, bacteria, protozoa. The EPA regulates 90. It is not technologically nor economically feasible to actually look at those contaminants and know how to deal with them. When you look at Flint, will there be another Flint? Yes, but it probably won't be lead. It will be something else. And did you know that the growing issues in this country are more of Legionnaire's disease, which is growing at a fast pace in this country in terms of incidence, and cryptosporidium, which is a parasite that unless you do UV lights, you can't destroy. So there are a lot of things out there from a water quality standpoint. And the fact is, well, go out and find out what industries are along waterways or what's dumping. There's so many points you have to take in that only through technology and finding ways to turn big data into information, into value-added analysis and analytics, are we ever going to be able to solve this? And we're doing a lot of efforts in our R&D and our engineering group at American Water that I can talk about if you like. And the fourth area affects everybody in here, whether you are an electric utility, gas utility, water utility, regulator, staff, and that is the issue of the customer experience. I have to tell you a story. About a month ago, we were in Philadelphia, and there's a group that Morgan Stanley puts on called the Executive Women in Energy. And we invited the woman, Kara Hurst, who is the head of sustainability for Amazon. She also is head of logistics and distribution. And we invited her in the morning. President Powelson was there, Alder Marks, Commissioner Sharina Edwards from Illinois was there, FERC Commissioner Colette Honorable was there. And she sat there, wanted to come early and listen to a lot of this discussion. Then she got up and talked about what Amazon's doing. She talked about their customer obsessiveness. Not customer focus, customer obsessiveness. And how because they're not getting the packaging they need from their vendors, they're creating their own group to do that. Folks, they may not care about our assets, but they really would love to have our customer base. 43% of all revenue on the internet is by Amazon. Let me repeat that. 43% of all the dollars spent on the internet is to Amazon. Wow. And if you ever go in there and it says, well, if you don't like this one, here are 8 other people who provide this. Pick which one you want, and we'll stand behind all of them. So the fact is, this issue of customer experience, we aren't competing with other utilities. We're not competing with ourselves from 3 years ago or 5 years ago where we do better. We're competing with a customer out there who looks at his or her iPhone and their life is easy because of the app. So what we're doing at American Water, we're moving to an app world for our employees and our customers so that they can have the same kind of experience with their water utility that they have with a growing part of the rest of their life. And kind of in closing, this morning I was watching CNBC, and Jim Cramer was on there, and he said something really interesting, Rob. He said, Amazon is not a company, it's an ecosystem. It's how people are doing things. It's how they're getting things done. And then he said, and you know that every company listens carefully, hoping that they're not the next target of Amazon. I thought those were pretty good words. So look forward to your questions and more discussion on this.
I want to pick up on really the topic of customer obsessiveness, and I actually have it too. It's eBay. And by the way, on that little app, could you help American Airlines with baggage? But
not American worker.
No, I know. I sometimes question these airline mergers. I just do electric stuff. So anyway, the customer, everybody talks about it. We talk about it at the National Association of Water Companies. There's this ever-changing customer, and there's customers, as my consumer advocate once reminded me, Rob, I know you want everybody shopping for electric supply, but just don't forget, there's that AARP member that just wants pure vanilla service, and they want it safely, they want it reliably. And so how do we bridge that gap? And here we are in California, a 50% renewable goal, which is very ambitious. And how do we strike that balance without causing undue hardship to that customer? And I'm just going to throw it out for conversation because we know the customer's changing. That's the check that box. We know there's different segments of customers. We have the millennials who want everything and they want it now. And then there's another segment of customers within that food chain who just say, leave me alone. Let me have what I want and let it be delivered and just please utility when Hurricane Sandy comes through, get me restored in 24 hours. That's a joke, but that's the new customer. So I'm going to throw that out, and I know it's a lot to chew on here, but how do we strike that balance? Susan, I'm going to look at you first.
I think there's two things. First of all, one of the things about Amazon too is price, right? So the first thing is, how do we do all of this but keep our customer bills affordable? There's two things that we're doing in American Water. Number one, we know that for every dollar going in we save, we can put $7 of capital in the ground with no impact on customer bills. And in the water industry, that infrastructure picture that I painted, the fact is, we have decades of capital work we need to do. We have a strong balance sheet. We limit our capital investment because of the impact it has on customer bills. So we have to be challenged as utilities to be more and more efficient, to make sure that we look at our cost structures and find ways to bring those down. The second, actually there's three. The second one is though, personalization should not be that expensive. And what I mean is, the days of putting in an SAP system, an Oracle system, we have a new head of technology and innovation who has a deep background in the electric utility industry and in startups. Geisha knows him very well. And he's basically saying, we can use the system that you've implemented to front-end applications and bring in apps, and that we can do that at a cost. He has not increased our capital budget. We've quit doing a lot of things that we did at one time so that we would have money for the new things we're doing. So we have to challenge ourselves. What does this mean in terms of cost? What are we doing in terms of personalization? And the third thing that we've got to look at is, how are we staying in touch with our customers? We looked at our incoming calls and our national call centers. We have 2 national call centers, and found that there are 8 journeys that are 90% of our calls. So we're doing focus groups with customers saying, tell us about your experience. Okay, you have to make yourself listen to this. What did you do well? What did you not do well? It's understand, design, and deliver. And now we're redesigning our internal processes for a one-stop resolution. And we're using artificial intelligence in our systems to do smart learning using natural language so that before the call center rep ever picks up the phone, they're able to know what that issue is, what the customer's history is, and do predictive analysis about how best to handle the customer. So there's a lot of that work, but I will tell you that it doesn't have to be that cost on top of everything else. We need to look for smarter ways to do our business.
Yeah. Is that on?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Okay. Yeah, for our sector, for the electric sector, I think it's okay. Right. For the electricity sector, I think it's the 2 systems need to talk to each other. The consumer, we are not going, it's a global mega trend that is not going away, that consumers want to consume, store, control their energy experience. That's happening. There are companies like us who are innovating there, and our customers like it. You know, we have a net promoter score, and that's at the same as Amazon, north of 70. So let's have the two systems talk to each other. We're telling the customer, should you install those solar panels on the west side or the south side? When should you turn your air conditioning on? And if we have the data and the information for what can help the overall system, we could do that much more cost effectively for everyone. And the downside scenario and the path we have to make sure we're not on is the more we make it hard for consumers to get what they want, which is their own generation and clean energy on the roof, the more we do that, the more we're going to encourage them to fully defect off the grid, which is what's going to make it happen, where it is more expensive for that person who wants the plain vanilla product. And that's why I'm so encouraged by some of the work that we're doing and some of these non-wires alternatives, and when we're looking to how do we incorporate DERs effectively for the whole system, that's what will help solve this issue.
And to pick up on that theme, and I've said it here before, and I don't hope it's not heresy, and I'm not going to put anybody on the spot here, but does the current, rate of return regulatory paradigm that we operate in, do you think it really recognizes innovation? I mean, Jason, you're probably the best to take up this question, and we have commissioners here. We're your host state, and you mentioned in your opening remarks this steadfast commitment to the integration of renewables. And so, how do you see it in the world of the 5th largest economy in the world, and one of the largest population centers in the U.S.? How do you see it from the lens of your company managing it with your regulator and saying, these are the things we're looking at, we'll call it an integrated resource plan / technology innovation plan, and how you sell that to a regulator?
So for us in California, I mean, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, we're all in. It's not a question of if we believe, if we can apply the technologies to really drive carbon out of our atmosphere. It's really about how to integrate that and how to do that in a way that leaves nobody behind, which is really at the heart of your question, right? All these different sets of customers. So in California, we have many customers. In our service territory, we've got 16 million people. And when you think about California, you think about coastal, you think about a lot of affluence, but the reality is something like 40% of our customers are low income. And they really have difficulty paying their bills. So as we go down this path of continuing to drive higher levels of clean energy, which we are all in on, and we really believe it's going to happen, how do you do that in a way that doesn't hurt our customers' ability to pay their bill, hurt their ability to pay their mortgage, hurt their ability to get necessary medicines, especially for our disadvantaged communities that are just living on the edge? The grid provides that sort of universal connectivity, which is why I think it's really important. But as we think ahead of how to continue to drive more and more innovation, more and more technology to enable greater levels of distributed energy resources, doing it in a way that doesn't lose sight of affordability as a strategic imperative for us. Making sure that we're doing everything possible, just as Susan said, driving our costs down, being as efficient as we can be so that we can continue to make those investments in capital is going to be imperative. But there's a third piece that's going to be important too. We've got to have the right policies in place. As we look at what historically utilities have done, they've made an investment, they've recovered that investment with a certain rate of return over 30 years. And they've been able to do that by setting rates, right, with a regulator that in essence recovers that investment over a long time on a volumetric basis. The more you use, the more you pay, the more you contribute. That model is fundamentally at risk at this point, as you have customers that are not just consumers of electricity, but in many cases they're producers and sellers of electricity. The value of the grid for them is very different than the value of the grid of a customer that all they want is the plain vanilla. So as we think about a business model in the future that allows all of this to happen, allows all of it to continue to grow, continue to make the economy greener and cleaner, we need a different business model. Maybe there'll be different service charges, or maybe it'll be access charges that customers customers that really are only interested in that backup service or that two-way power cloning. That's possible. Maybe it's some sort of incentive program, but it may very likely not be a one-size-fits-all. Maybe there's tiers. I mean, I think about my use of my cell phone, which is it's really a handheld computer, and how I pay for that is based on data. I have a data plan, a family plan that my children participate in. My parents, all they want is a cell phone. And so they got like almost like a little burner type thing. It's like a little flip phone. I can't believe they're still on it. But they pay by the minute. And they're constantly counting the minutes so that they can reduce the amount of usage and the amount of charges that they have. We're very different. We both need that connectivity, but we use it differently. And I think we don't know what it's going to look like in the future. But I think this one-size-fits-all mentality may not work. We're going to need different business models and different ways of really incenting capital investment, while at the same time having good returns for the utilities.
So, Illinois Commerce Commission Chairman Brian Sheehan. So I tell you, he is doing something that he is spearheading at NARUC that is a specific thing that regulators can do to promote technology, and that is, as we're moving into a world of cloud computing, under federal accounting standards, if you do cloud computing, which can be significantly less expensive than building capital infrastructure in your company to house data to do a lot of these technologies, what happens is it's an O&M expense. And indirectly, you're incentivizing utilities to do the old way of doing things, which are more expensive, by the way, than cloud computing. The ability to use cloud computing or one-time software purchases that have a life of 5 or 10 years, treating it as a RAG asset over a period of time, rather than an O&M expense that occurs in 1 year, not only is a more appropriate way to match up benefits and intergenerational equity, but it also helps in that most states, rightfully so, are going to future test years. If you happen to have a year where you make that one-time purchase and take that one-time O&M, you're basically building that into that year. So I would tell you a very specific thing that regulators can do, and this is not just for water utilities, this is for all of us, is keeping up with technology and the way we can facilitate technology much less cheaply and not have it dictated by accounting practices.
Maria, I'm not going to let you off the hook here because we heard earlier about policy goals, and as we're talking about innovation and potential SMR investment, I look at my state in 2004, we adopted, like many other states, renewable portfolio standards. And those renewable portfolio standards played a key role in harnessing renewable investment. In my state, 2,500 megawatts of installed wind capacity. And again, it was a well thought out bipartisan initiative. 30 plus other states have followed suit. Here in California, Geisha, I just read that Governor Brown wants to go to 50% on the renewable portfolio standard here in California.
It's already done.
Already done?
Go to 100%.
100, wow.
Let's not get excited about that.
Please curb your enthusiasm. We'll get to the audience here momentarily, in the midst of asking a good question. But the conversation then, as I said, was thoughtful and looking at that investment. I remember in Pennsylvania, there wasn't a conversation about base load nuclear, rewarding investment in nuclear upgrades. And here we are today, where I talked in 2008, we were talking renaissance, and today, those 105 reactors, there's severe constraints on the nuclear power sector. And as you said in your remarks, once these things close, it's over. There's no, flipping the switch and bringing them back online. And we won't get into the waste conversation. That's for another segment. Jack's going to take that one up for me. But we look at that, and here we are today dealing with this issue that Illinois, New York, and others have dealt with. So my question to you is how we need to be cognizant of how policy objectives can really impact what we were doing in Pennsylvania in 2004. We weren't talking nuclear, and honestly, we probably should have. So your thoughts there, and how it is, how you see it going forward.
Yeah, thank you. Can't tell if this is on or not.
How about this one?
Hey.
No, I appreciate the question, and very much sharing that the policy decisions that we make, as you outlined, do have a direct impact on the landscape, and nuclear is a good example in this case. I think the renewable portfolio standards did a good job at encouraging the renewables. I think what we need to do is keep the end game in mind, right? And the end game is that clean, emission-free, we want clean air, we want to treat the earth well, and I think you need to keep that in mind. I think Germany is a great example. I think they made some strong decisions, and they went heavy with renewables, with maybe not looking at the entire picture. And now if they're looking at their baseload, you're looking at their baseload through coal or gas. They actually haven't reduced their emissions in the degree, and not likely that they're going to meet their 2020 goal. And so I think in this case, we need to look at the marrying, if you will, of the renewables as well as with clean baseload. And that, at the end of the day, gets us to the carbon goals and the emission-free goals that many of our customers want. Our customers are getting very selective and very picky. You now even see how you get your electricity as part of the advertisement for some companies, right? That they're getting their power in a clean way, or that they're forming a data center, and the data center is being, supplied with clean energy. And so, you wouldn't have even heard that 5-10 years ago. But it's real. You mentioned back a couple of years ago the 105 reactors. Well, that number's 99 today. And as I mentioned in my remarks, there are more reactors that are stressed. And so I think it's very, very important that we look at that end game and make sure that we're not sub-optimizing and taking away some of these critical, large, round-the-clock, carbon-free, emission-free resources while we're looking to transition to something new. And these assets, I was responsible for running some of these assets. I was a site vice president, I was a chief nuclear officer. The investment that are put into these nuclear plants on a regular basis. I ran a plant that was put into operation in 1969. If you would walk through that plant today, it would look like a teenager. The investments in terms of replacements of piping and pumps, etc. So don't look at the age of a plant to say, oh, that's old technology. Look at the amount of investment as we look now further to a second license renewal, where these plants can go from not only 60 years of life to 80 years of life. That's basic infrastructure here for the United States. It's infrastructure that's been well invested in, very well taken care of, and will suit us extremely well if we respect it. And right now, some of the policies are putting these plants in a place where they just don't get a fair shot. Taking a renewable portfolio standard, changing it to a clean energy standard, gives nuclear that voice, as an example.
Now, I want to share with you a statistic, and this is a little quiz, so I'm going to let you all jump in on it. So the Energy Administration put out a statistic, which I was really intrigued by. First time since 1970 in this country, the U.S. power sector emitted less CO2 than our transportation sector. So, who wants to talk about that trend line? Go ahead.
I'm ready to jump on that. As a matter of fact, in California, I'll tell you the statistics, something like close to 50% of the greenhouse gas emissions that are out there in California come from transportation. Both a combination of what comes out of the tailpipe and the emissions that are required from the refinery part of the business. Versus, if you look at that, the electricity sector is like 20-25% overall. We've made enormous progress. It's not accidental. It's not like, oh, look, it just happened. I think that in California, the regulators, the policymakers, and the utilities have done a magnificent job of really moving the economy towards one that's just greener. The opportunity, that's how we look at it now, the opportunities in transportation. We don't believe that California can actually achieve its aggressive climate change goals without really taking a bite out of transportation. And that's where having this great grid that's clean, that's modern, that's two-way power flow will enable the electrification of transportation that ultimately will reduce greenhouse gases in a more cost-effective basis. So we're pretty excited about that.
Agreed. Certainly, and I think storage is so key to that too. And so that's one of the other, points of reference just for this group. I was at the big solar conference last week, InterSolar, which brings all the global manufacturers of solar plus storage, and they're not paying attention to the U.S. market very much. So there, when you see a market like Germany, there's a 40% attach rate on storage to solar, or Australia and other markets, and so the suppliers are very much building their standards around other countries and aren't investing as much as I don't think we would like in this country. And so another recommendation for those in the group is think about that, because the storage that we put on with our rooftop solar, not only will that help save money for the overall system, but also helps get that cost curve down so that we can electrify the transportation sector.
And so partnerships that the electric and energy companies do, for example, with water, interestingly, in the United States, 4% of all electricity is used to treat and move water on our side, of the water utility side, whether you're a city or an investor-owned, and another 9% of electricity is used to heat water for use in the home for businesses or industrials. So 13%, almost 13% of all the electricity used in this country has something to do with water. So since 2007, American Water has reduced our carbon footprint by over 25%. And we did that through things like the average pump efficiency is 55%. We have a pump replacement or refurbishment program that is the largest contributor to that. Power, in addition to chemicals and labor, are our top cost. We have floating solar arrays at one of our reservoirs in New Jersey. It's only about 3 megawatts, but still, it helps us during the peak times. And in Pennsylvania, in the President's state, we actually are part of Envala Power Networks, where we can store water easier than you can store electricity. So we cycle on our pumps and our motors during peak times, and we've saved 2 to 3% of energy at that water treatment plant, to the point we've basically expanded that to an additional water plant in Pennsylvania and a second one in New Jersey, Chairman Moreau. So, I think that part of the carbon reduction isn't just looking at your fleet and what makes it up, which is important, but it's also part of what are we doing for efficiency and energy conservation efforts, and water's a great place to start. Just like water conservation is important on the electric and energy side.
Thanks, and I would just add, that's why it's so important for us to get the electricity grid right, because when we work on the transportation sector, it's going to be electrified, right? And so if you think about this as one large cycle, as we clean up and are concerned about emissions, whether those are carbon emissions or other emissions, the idea is to electrify it. So electrify cars, electrify transportation, but in doing so, that's why we have to base the grid on carbon-free sources, right? And so there's a whole story here, if you will, that needs to come together. And absolutely, you're already hearing, I think it was Volvo that just made an announcement that said starting in 2019, they're going away from the standard combustion engine, right? And they're going to all be hybrid and in the future electric. So I would tell you that's a signal of where things are headed.
I want you all to imagine this scenario. We're in our nation's capital, and it's Monday, and we're going to vote on an infrastructure bill.
Really?
I just got my fun there. In that infrastructure bill, we want to recognize innovation in our infrastructure. And I've said this before. I mean, look, we all want world-class intermodal investment, and from the airports to the ports to our rail systems. But I get concerned, and as Chairman Sheehan has teed up this conversation with the innovators in the electric and gas and water sectors, that policymakers really don't understand at a national level and sometimes a state level the impact innovation plays in your everyday world. So here it is. We're imagining this scenario, and how do we articulate that message to policymakers in Washington? Susan's nodding her head because I understand she's spending a lot of time with her team talking about this and how, we talk about water consolidation, how just, get away from the old mentality of divvying out dollars. Let us compete for that private capital, and we'll go at it. So why don't we tee that up? And looking for some real provocative thought here. It's Monday, and so go at it. Give us your worldviews.
So one thing, the good thing is, I know that the administration put out a list of the top 50 projects. The good news is a lot of those are energy projects. They're gas pipelines, Atlantic Coast Pipeline, different pipelines were included there. From the water sector, our company has been working a lot on water policy issues because of the statistics that I quoted for you about water and wastewater infrastructure. Unlike electric and gas, which about 70 to 80% of the U.S. population is served by investor-owned utilities, in the water sector, 84% of water is provided by municipalities, and the vast majority, over 85% of those, have less than 5,000 customer connections. So that is an issue. There are 52,000 community-provided water systems. 98% of wastewater is provided by munis. So it's a real challenge. Number one, transportation is sucking off.
Those were all the people who do bridges. Yeah. Does anything work now?
Power's on, that's good.
Okay, it's working now. Okay, I think the transportation people, I was about to say transportation sucking all the wind out of the room in Washington. I think we're probably listening in. But the big discussions in Washington are transportation, bridges, road, airports. Water is coming into the discussion, and I'll tell you specifically, we have recommended, NAWC has been very involved, National Association of Water Companies. We've been very involved, and we're recommending 5 things. Number one is that we believe there should be, for low-income water customers, the same type of federal support that we have in LIHEAP for electricity customers, because there's no such program. And a lot of states have programs, but there's not a federal program. That's number one. Number two, there are things, and if you are involved in a municipality, this is an issue, it's called defeasance, that if you buy a municipality and they have any tax-exempt bonding, they have to pay those off, and so if they're getting proceeds from a sale to offset pension liabilities, etc., they have to pay these bonds off. We don't want those bonds, we just want these cities to have full optionality. Second thing is, there's something called the private activity bonds that have caps. And I think across transportation, water, infrastructure, we're recommending that those caps be taken off. State water revolving funds that basically allow states to have the option to divvy those up without caps, and also you can do it for drinking water but not wastewater. And we also are advocating, whether it's a municipal or a private investor-owned water, that regionalization. We cannot, I talked about emerging contaminants and all of the challenges we have. If you're a small community and you have 5 people running a water treatment plant or 2 people running a wastewater, there is no way you can keep up with what's going on, or the contaminants, those type of things. These folks are doing everything they can with the resources. These cities have so many priorities, and they are doing the very best they can. But there's a point at which you need expertise and resources. So we're advocating for regionalization, that there can be federal matching funds if regionals come together, whether it's under another municipality or a private company. So we spent a lot of time and narrowed down our asks to 5 very specific things. We don't know, to Geisha's point, if that will go anywhere, but we believe the state of water and wastewater in the United States will be better if those are adopted.
Let me add, not provocative, not sexy, but man, do we need permitting reform. When we look at, for example, some of our facilities, our hydro assets, which provide this base load, always there, always on when you need it, clean power to our communities. When we have to go relicense them, oh my goodness, 8 to 10 years, tens of millions of dollars, a lot of uncertainty. These are great facilities, and so I think we've got to figure out how do we improve the whole permitting process, whether it's for a hydro asset or something as simple as doing infrastructure work or maintenance work on U.S. forestry. You can't get in to do line clearing without this incredible morass of permits. And so we think permitting reform is fundamental to infrastructure build, whether it be water or whether it be energy or whatever it may be. It's sort of like a no regret, gotta improve it, gotta streamline it, gotta get out of it.
Lynn, you want to pick up on that a little?
Sure. I absolutely agree on permitting. Permitting is, one of the reasons why rooftop solar is so expensive in the U.S. as compared to other markets. It's 40% cheaper for a rooftop solar system in Australia and Germany than it is in the U.S. 40% cheaper. Same cost of labor, same cost of equipment. So it's the complexity around our permitting infrastructure. So I would definitely echo that. One just other quick thought. It might be provocative, but it's a basic tenet of business, I think, which is we need to look as a country. What drives innovation is competition and information. And so we need to look at what is a natural monopoly, what makes sense to still be a natural monopoly. If it doesn't, then let's get the information out there, and smart entrepreneurs like myself and my peers will come fight to provide something cost effectively. And you know, one of the reasons why the solar industry costs have come down so much is I'm fighting with Elon Musk every day over trying to win these customers. And so I really think to take a look at first principles. What can be done better competitively? And can we provide the information and the long-term security so that companies can come in, get financing, and solve some of these problems? The market can solve a lot of these problems that we're struggling with from this top-down central planning, which is a much tougher exercise.
And I would say for infrastructure and nuclear, it would be giving credit to the current fleet for the infrastructure that they provide today, and public-private partnerships for some of the innovation and investment in new reactors.
Well, I think we've accomplished a lot here today. In fact, I could do another hour with this group, but I'm getting the hook here from Michelle Malloy, and you don't ever want to violate that protocol, or you'll have a short presidency. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for your participation here today. This has been an incredible conversation. More importantly, I want to thank you all for your leadership and what it means to us as a neighborhood community. And with that, on behalf of the neighborhood, thank you. Thanks, everyone. We're going to jump into our committee meetings, and look forward to seeing everyone back later on today.